Burnout is when you are overextending yourself and you're doing too many things for just exposure, right? Because we actually need money. Money will help us better express who we already are, right? If we're creative, money is just going to help us be even that much more creative. So it's been an old stale thought to say artists, and I understood that as artists, it's tough to place a number on our creativity. If we create a piece, it's like giving birth to a child. It's tough to say, well, how much you're gonna, what kind of number can you put on something that's that close or that personal to you? It's like, well, I'd rather give it away or give it to a good home. But when those bills roll around, you can't use that same mindset to pay those.
Welcome to the Poetic Justice Podcast. I'm your host, Jen. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'm excited that I have an amazing guest here with me today, none other than the artist Christopher Terrell. I think I got it wrong the first time, so I'll make sure I come correct this time. Okay. And the founder of the Raleigh Film Art Festival, and my partners here for the Poetic Justice Podcast. Thank you so much for joining. How are you?
I'm doing great. What better place to be at than here with you? I'm doing great.
It's so funny because you're what's my word? Like introverted and like calm and collective and shy. But behind the scenes, y'all, he's talkative and extremely just bubbling with all the jewels. We were just talking a few minutes ago about a lot of things, but and we'll get into some of that stuff because I feel like the conversation we were having is beneficial for everyone to hear. When we was talking about kind of the phase that I'm in right now with things and wanting to grow and expand as an artist and entrepreneur. So, but talk to us a little bit about the Raleigh Film and Art Festival, because I know it's coming up and it's something that's super, super major, really big achievement for you as a creative and artist. So talk to us about the history of it and kind of what led to where you are today with it, and a little bit about where you want to go with it.
Yeah. So the origin of the Raleigh Film and Art Festival was started over 12 years ago. So it formed out of necessity, and because Raleigh didn't have a film festival when the Raleigh Film and Art Festival was created, and it actually started in two parts. It was the Raleigh Art Festival and the Raleigh Film Festival. A lot of people always ask, why doesn't it have a S on the art part? Why is it Raleigh Film and Art?
I always say
Festival?
Arts too.
It happens all the time. You're not alone. And it's because it started as the Raleigh Art Festival. And again, it was created out of necessity. I do a lot of things after I observe things that are out of place. And I look at, instead of me trying to force myself into a place where I will never fit, let me create that place where people like myself fit without forcing ourselves to fit. And that's what the Raleigh Film and Art Festival as an organization has been for 11 years. And that's kind of how we started. Well, we started around First Friday as a monthly event. And we were in the downtown area. We would go into restaurants and we would have spoken word, music, art, and film. And so we had those combination of things, and we would be inside, we would go into the restaurants near Moore Square, and we would ask them, hey, can we come and set up? This is what we're going to do. It's going to be in here organically. We're not going to be in the way of anything. We're just going to kind of set up. So I had about 3 restaurants on the loop, and it was a monthly event. We started with the Raleigh Art side, Raleigh Art Festival. And we kind of grew and added film, um, the film portion, and instead of being a monthly event, so much time was being spent putting together the monthly event, and we were just growing at a rapid pace. It's like, okay, instead of me trying to plan for 3-day monthly event, let me go to an annual anticipated event. So I started pouring my efforts into creating an annual event. And so that annual event is the event that you see today. Um, and it's the combination of the Raleigh Art and the Raleigh Film Festival all on one platform. So that's the origin, kind of like in a quick snapshot of how we started, how it all began.
Okay, so when you think about how something you said that stood out to me major, and it resonated with me because when I think about myself as someone who is constantly looking at things from a bird's eye view and from a larger perspective, is that seeing certain things that are not being provided or something that's sort of, I guess, missing, or opportunities that are not being offered for certain people, similar to myself, and looking at it to say that, okay, instead of trying to, make myself appeal to others in this sort of genre of art, I'm going to provide opportunities for those who are seeking this to be able to have it, right? And I think that's absolutely phenomenal and a good foundation to really build on, because it's so prevalent when we think about there's so many different people that are looking for certain places where they feel like they can belong, as opposed to trying to fit in, right? So I'm glad that you said that. It really resonated with me. So what do you think that as artists they can learn from that when it comes down to how they're creating their art, when they have this imposter syndrome, when they have these parts of themselves where, because I see a lot of artists at this point kind of getting burnt out because they are looking for opportunities to be able to grow and expand their self as an artist, and not necessarily being able to have the capacity or the bandwidth or the funds to be able to do that. What's your advice to them? Like, where you see something like that going, where artists can really take what you just said and really learn from that in creating their own spaces to flourish and thrive?
Yeah. And so what a lot of people know about me, or who have met me, right? I'm a visual artist also. So I've been painting for a very long time, and I was that artist that was going to all these different events for exposure, for this or for that. I would take my art, and there might not even be a space for me to put my art in that space, and I would just set up just to be a part of these things. But what I started to learn was, and like you said something important. Burnout is when you are overextending yourself and you're doing too many things for just exposure, right? Because we actually need money. Money will help us better express who we already are, right? If we're creative, money is just going to help us be even that much more creative. So it's been an old stale thought to say artists, we, and I understand, and I understood that as artists, it's tough to place a number on our creativity. If we create a piece, it's like giving birth to a child. It's tough to say, well, how much you're gonna, what kind of number can you put on something that's that close or that personal to you? It's like, well, I'd rather give it away or give it to a good home. But when those bills roll around, you can't use that same mindset to pay those. And so what you have to do as an artist, being creative is the ultimate level, and I look at it, it's the closest connection to God, right? Creativity. That's who we are. We were designed out of creativity. We express, and we're closest to God when we're creating. So as artists, that doesn't mean that, okay, I can't do a job someplace, or I can't work over here because that's going to take away from the purity of my creativity. That's wrong, right? Because what we can also do while we're working or have a job is take the revenue that we're generating from these places and pour into that passion project, or pour into the things that we're creating most, that brings us the most joy, until it finds its legs to sustain itself. Because sustainability sometimes isn't always instantly, unless you're, creating something that's, I don't know, chemically addictive or something like that. Visual art is stimulating, but it's not necessarily, it's stimulating and it has a place. Visual art, spoken word art, all types of art form have their place. The goal is, how do we generate sustainability and how do we generate revenue from those places, right? That's always going to be the question for an artist. And if we're not careful, we can overextend ourselves because we are artists and miss the revenue part. And after a while, you just start hitting that wall where it's like, well, if I exposure, how much money can exposure get me if no one there is buying anything from me? They all see my work, they all see what I'm doing, but nobody's making a purchase. So you have to be creative in all forms of fashion. Like, if you look at yourself, and I said this to you earlier,
Yeah.
sometimes we always have to look at ourselves. We control when someone's going to reach into their wallet. What is that thing that's going to say, I want to buy this? That's the ultimate form of respect, when someone says, I want to pay for that. I want to buy that from you. So we have to look at what are we doing that's causing that revenue to click? And when we find what we're doing that's causing that revenue to click, we just got to repeat it and continue to repeat it, and don't stop creating because the revenue isn't sustaining you yet. Most things that started out, most businesses, not most, but every business, when it first started out, it wasn't generating buku amounts of revenue. It wasn't sustaining itself.
Yeah, a lot of people probably didn't believe in the faith of it.
No, a lot of people didn't. So that's how we got to look at ourselves as creatives. We got to look at ourselves as creatives as a small business or as a business. And we are the biggest revenue driver of that business. Ultimately, what we create is the product for that business. And so we got to just look at, and then we also got to find other creative ways. Like, if we have to go and jump into our entrepreneur bag and do some other things that's going to create revenue, do it. It's called a currency for a reason. Money has to keep flowing. If it becomes stagnant, if it becomes still, then what are we doing to keep that flow? We always have to continue pressing the button for money to flow, creating that flow and that currency.
Hey y'all, Jus Write here. I would like to take a moment to introduce you to one of the biggest poetry events known as the Inkspired Experience, taking place right here in Raleigh, North Carolina, produced by our affiliate SP The Writer. And let me tell you, it is the epitome of elegance and creativity and a mesmerizing fusion of high fashion, poetry, music, and art. I promise this upscale experience is like stepping into a world where imagination knows no bounds, where passion takes center stage. This captivating showcase will leave you breathless.
One thing that I have struggled with, especially lately, is as the influx of exposure and connections and collaborations and all those things start to take place. Because if one thing that I noticed was that there was this kind of wave, right, of the art and creative industry, just particularly in this last couple years since the pandemic, where there was a bubbling sense of everybody, let's get out of the house. We outside, right? And everybody was excited. A lot of things was happening. You were seeing open mics here, popping up there, popping up, all these different things as far as art goes. And then it kind of waved into this, okay, what do we do next? Oh, okay, let's bring all these things together and offer spaces for all of this to happen. And then it was the workshops and the, things like that, right? And the panels and the da-da-da-da-da, right? Then we have this other phase now, I feel like, where people are trying to do kind of like what you said, like far as, okay, we're having fun, right? These are all great opportunities for exposure, but I see a lot of artists, again, with my kind of bird's eye view, like myself, who are getting to a phase of how can I monetize this? How can I, take this to the next level and expanding. I, as someone that offers like different opportunities myself in the community for artists to be able to get the exposure, but also get the connections and being able to expand their brand, have advocated for that, advocating for artists to start thinking critically about how they can start monetizing their goals with their art. But when it comes down to balancing that, our passion, our artistry, our creativity with life, that is always a challenge for so many who essentially would love to be artists full time, would love the opportunity to monetize their art so they can do it full time. But you have family, you have, some of us have children, some of us have full-time jobs that precede, right, our art. So I know that you're a family man, you have children, you have a wife, you have that. So tell me, how does that work into, balancing what it is that you do, because you're everywhere. He's nowhere but everywhere. Like, you never see him, but he's everywhere, right? So tell me though, how has that been for you with nourishing such a huge baby of the Raleigh Film and Arts of art, the Raleigh Film and Art Festival, but also having those different modes of entrepreneurship and business, small business, to fuel all that. Like, how do you balance all that? That's a lot. It's a lot.
Well, I mean, I'm going to give you
Give me the
the
juice.
honest, I'm going to give you the
I need to
honest
know.
answer, right? What people have to understand, and this is probably going to be like real insight to creativity, but it's not an uncommon factor that all of us creatives know. There is no balance, right?
That's what I was waiting for you to say.
I'm not going to candy coat it because in order, the truth, and when you and I have had this conversation before, the lies are what hurt. The truth doesn't hurt, right? The truth is powerful. The truth is undefeatable. The lies are what hurt. So I can't sit here and lie to people and be like, oh yeah, I have this brilliant blueprint of how all of this works, how I'm here and I'm there and I don't miss any graduations or any important moments. I can't say that, there is no real great answer to that other than we're human. I'm human, especially, and that's a continuous process in life as a creative, because we're called to be creative. We cannot suppress creativity. If we're called to do something, it's going to be the dominant factor in our lives, no matter what. We could lose friends, we could lose family, we could lose a lot of different things. And so when I say we can lose those things, I guess lose may not be the correct word. Some of those things can suffer. Right? Some of those things can suffer what we consider suffering in ourselves. Because as a creative, we beat ourselves up real bad. Like we really take it out on ourselves if we miss something that was deemed an important thing for us to be a part of, and we missed it because we had this creative adventure that we had to go on, or this creative thing that we had to facilitate, or this creative thing that we had to do. It's a real balancing act. And, it's not always a 100% success rate for myself. I can speak for myself. It's not always 100% successful. There's times that it's like, dang it, how did I forget this important function that I had to be at that only comes around once, and I missed it because I put it on my calendar, but I forgot to put what was the function. I just had a time and a date, but I didn't put the what or the where. And then I find out later what the what and the where was, and realize how important that was. And so for every victory that I have, there's equal and opposite non-victories too that I also have to deal with. Now, the better question is, how do you deal with those things?
That was my next question. Like, what's been the point where you found yourself like, oh my God, like I don't know if I can do this. Today. Like, I can imagine you have those moments. And I would like to be a fly on the wall as to know how you deal with them.
More like a dragonfly on the wall, right? So how I deal with them, and some of my close staff knows, and there's board members and team members that have been with me for 13 years that help me with that balance. But one of the things that I do, like exercise, or like there's one thing that I do that I would give to every and anybody who believes, right, in a higher power. I pray. And when I say I pray maybe 10 and 20 unlimited times. Right now I have myself on an unlimited prayer schedule. What a lot of people fail to remember, or sometimes we get caught up in all these rituals, this, that. If I get this done, but what we lose sight on is that prayer is what is free. It's free to talk to God. Prayer is what accomplished so many different things in the life that we live to this day. The things that we're able to conceptualize, visualize, and also walk into was a lot of times because of prayer. And it could have been people that prayed for us, prayed around us, but it was prayer in a relationship with God. That is my number one first thing. When at 12:01, if I'm up, and some days, some weeks, some months, I might sleep an hour, up an hour, sleep an hour, up an hour. I have to get things done, right? But in those moments, the day begins at 12:01. I'm praying. And I pray just like you and I are talking. And it's from my mentor. In talking with, I have a mentor too, mentors that are brilliant, that, you can sit and talk to real people. Like you and I can sit and have a real conversation, because we also, not just we're sitting here, but we also have a common ground, or common bond, or common ground that we can also speak from. But prayer is my number one way of managing and maintaining a sustainable, healthy mind frame and determination and success. Prayer is also what allows me to have extreme success, because it's God, right? God is the ultimate connection for me. And without prayer, you and I wouldn't be here talking. The calm disposition, the calm demeanor, all those things are obtained because I pray so much. And it could be I get in my car and the radio isn't on, and I'm just praying. I might pray all the way to my next stop before I walk into a meeting with the senators, before I walk into the next meeting with whoever I'm going to. I prayed all the way up until that time, talking to God.
What are some things you found that, or people? Because one thing you said is having to lose or
Sorry.
having to lose, or I don't know if you said, I think you said lose or maybe, reassess the relationship that you have with that person. Through your journey, what would you say is some of the biggest things you had to really let go?
Yeah, and I want to re-add. I wouldn't necessarily say lose, because I
Yeah.
said lose family. I haven't lost any family. My family. When I say my family has been extremely supportive. Also, when I say lose time. Lose time to myself. That I'm thinking this time is so important for this or these people. Right? It is, because time you can never get back. And for some of the people in my life, all they want is my time, right? And so that's what I mean by, the losing, because my family has been so supportive, like throughout my endeavors for a lifetime. My mother in particular has been phenomenal. My whole family. And so, but yeah, I just wanted to add that. So ask your question again.
No, I was just saying, what are some things that you've had to kind of let go as you, rechannel your focus, as you, because we were just talking about that before, talking about how, some of the things what's working, what's not, where are you at right now, and looking at those types of things to say that, okay, if this is not actually going to benefit you or be generative in this moment, then you have to kind of let it go and move on to the next phase or reassess it and try to go about it another way. We was, talking about that as it pertains to me.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, in your elevation of where you are now, and maybe even thinking about where you want to lead to, what are some things that you feel like you may are looking to let go, and or what are some things that you have? You can answer either one of those questions however you want to.
So no, I mean, look,
I think letting go is really
letting go,
important,
yeah.
not necessarily losing, but
Not losing,
Yeah.
right? You're not losing. Well, let me say this. So, and again, I'm grateful to be on the next Oprah. I got to just say that again. Like you're amazing. But not to get too sidetracked off of the fact that what I find is, and I've used this example with my teammates. And I say this all the time, I'm professionally awkward, right? But I do a lot of research, and I research nature a lot. We can learn a lot from how God has created nature perfectly. But if you study nature, you can also apply the things that you learn in nature to an organization, to your own business, right? A lot of businesses, believe it or not, have structures that are around some of nature, right? But what I looked at is, and nature is God. God creates nature. So you can't lose. But what I studied is trees. And so in studying trees, I started the question, and I have a whole bunch of research on trees. But anyway, so professionally awkward. But it's okay, because you're going to learn about trees. Trees only grow at night, right? This is something new, right? Trees only grow at night. But I looked at trees and I was thinking to myself, wow, these things are all around. They're some of the oldest things on the earth, right? Trees. They've been around for the longest. And I asked myself, how And why? Because I don't see anyone watering that tree. I don't see anyone maintaining that tree. I don't see anyone doing anything for that tree. But yet that tree exists. And not only does it exist, it's thriving where it stands, right? It's not moving. It's not, as we can see, it's not moving, right? But you start to learn, well, that tree is doing a lot of things. It's growing up and out, right? And it does this so efficiently. How does it do it so efficiently? So I looked at that. A tree will look within itself, and the branches that are growing on a tree that are causing the tree not to have sufficient nutrients, sufficient things that it's going to need to continue to grow up to the highest height in order for it to elevate, the tree will eliminate those branches. Those branches will cease to exist because those branches are no longer benefiting the tree's growth. Nobody had to tell that tree that, right? The tree understood in order for it to be sustain life and to elevate, it had to eliminate certain branches from itself. And so I apply that to my own organizations, right? I apply that to my organization. I apply it to my life, businesses, I should say. And that's one of the questions I asked you. Well, what is it doing for you, right? If a branch of your organization is taking more out, basically nutrients, taking more out than what is bringing in order for you, the tree itself, to grow, you're the tree, your business, your organization is the tree, then why is it still a branch? Shouldn't you as an organization or as the tree eliminate that branch so that the rest of the tree can grow? And so this is some of the things that you do constantly. You don't wait for a year. You don't wait for, you don't wait too long because you're constantly growing every day, right? That is the goal for a tree to be around for 200 years or however long, who knows, is growing every day. This is how you sustain it.
I like that you said too that it's growing in the dark, because a lot of
Nobody
times,
sees it.
Yeah, a lot of times that growth happens when nobody's around, when nobody sees it, and sometimes it gets dark.
It gets dark,
It
but you
gets
can't
dark
stop
sometimes,
growing when it
but you
gets
can't
dark.
stop growing. There you go. I like that, and it makes, and I love that very much. I love the professional awkwardness. I appreciate that. And
So I'm sure people
no,
aren't
I
ready
think
to learn about trees.
yeah, no, I think now that you have this, you will look at trees an entirely new way, right? And that's beautiful, because I do think nature plays a role in every aspect of our life if we actually just apply it. So thank you for that. Like, I'm over here like, oh my God, that was like so good. That was some good stuff. I can't wait to like crop that and it's gonna be so good. But no, okay. So talk to me about what's coming up for. I touched on it a little bit before, but I want you to really get into what do you see Raleigh Film and Art Festival going within the next. We could talk about what's coming up, because we got some amazing events happening, but also tell me about where do you see it in, say, 5 years from now, or maybe a year from now. What are some plans that you got for the future? What can people like really be looking toward, and how can we draw people into this amazing thing that you have happening? Of course, we'll have many filmmakers and writers coming on the show to really highlight the idea of film. A lot of artists coming on, visual artists. And that was our goal with our partnership, is to be able to highlight that and talk more about what the Raleigh Film and Art is doing. But you tell us, as the founder himself, what is some plans that you have for the future, and talk a little bit about the events that are coming up soon.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have our annual event. The big Raleigh Film and Art Festival is our annual event. That's going to be we're going to be celebrating that here in October, coming up in October, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Centennial Campus, NC State Campus, our wonderful partners. And we'll have, we have other annual events. We have a lot of new programs that are being created with the Raleigh Film and Art Festival. New partnerships that we are developing. We have some amazing partnerships with Dix Park, Dix Conservancy, with Art Space, just to name a few, with SP. We have
Shout out
some great partnerships like yourself, and we're developing other branches of the organization. And that is the whole that's kind of been our that's been our growth pattern for the last few years. We have our visual arts department, we have our poetry department, and they're in each department, each branch, they're contributing in ways that the festival hasn't seen in a few years. And so we're having a growth spurt right now. I'll call it. We're having an amazing growth spurt. We have our visual art department with Robbie Pope Bailey. We have Malka, she's taking over to do our programming. And when I say she's probably the most efficient person that I've met, it's amazing. So, and it's just the organization itself has been attracting a lot of amazing people. The organization is bigger than myself. It's bigger than me, and it's supposed to be around long after we're not here. The organization itself is supposed to be around and giving that shade and giving that nutrients to a thriving arts community for 200 years. So that's what it's supposed to do. So I mean, we just have a lot of great partnerships, a lot of things that we're developing. 2 years from now, 5 years. Of course, I would like to see us where we're a $200 million film and arts organization. They do exist, right? Our makeup is a little different. It's really interesting. We're a creative tribe. I always say that we're a creative tribe. So we have 200 million valued tribe members that pour into the festival's creative vibration every year. Someone is waking up every day and discovering the Raleigh Film and Art Festival, and that's really what I want. That's one of the things that I can ask for. Every day, someone's learning about what we do and becoming a part of that vibration. So, eventually, it'll translate into other things. But right now, we're going to enjoy the growth that we have and the partnerships that we have with other area partners and just keep growing.
Awesome. So how can one who wants to discover more about the Raleigh Film and Art Festival and or yourself get in contact? Or, how can they find you?
So this is probably the most I've talked to someone. And
exclusive here.
Yeah,
this is exclusive.
3 years or so, over 5 minutes, with the camera in front of me. So, if you want to learn more, you can subscribe. Go to our website and subscribe, and you'll get our newsletter. Come to events. We have monthly, weekly events that we're annual events that we do. Come. And if you are in North Carolina, if you're from North Carolina or you've moved to North Carolina, you have to experience the Raleigh Film and Arts Festival at least once while you're here. Because if you experience it once, you will never not want to come and enjoy the arts that we put on annually, once a year with our big festival. So, but subscribe to our webpage. You can go to our Instagram, or follow us on Facebook, just Raleigh Film Art Festival on all our social media platforms.
Awesome. And of course, you are an artist. So how can they tap into you to see your work?
So,
That.
so you can see my work. You can go to Artist Christopher Terrell, my website. I do have a website. I was asked to create a website because I don't do a lot of commission work as much as I used to, because I'm always on some kind of a project. So, but I do try to make time to just paint for fun. And so, people, I still paint for fun. I still do commission work. I still go to art shows, not as many for myself, but we do a lot of shows that sometimes I'll include my work in. But my website, you can see a lot of my work, some of my work on my website, artistchristopherterrell.com.
Awesome. And you guys, make sure you also tap into the upcoming Raleigh Film and Art Festival that's going on October the 6th through the 7th, correct?
No, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
6th through the 8th. The Poetic Justice podcast will be making a cameo there, in which we will be doing some interviews on site. So if you want to tap in with myself and or Mr. Moore here, you can definitely do so by visiting our sites. You can follow me at Jen_Jus_Write. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you so much for coming. Y'all, this is exclusive, okay? So y'all need to share this. Y'all need to tap in and watch the full episode, because you would probably, this is pretty exclusive here. To get him to talk this much on camera. So thank you so much, though, for taking out the time to speak with me today, because I know it took a lot. And not only that, I remember us talking about doing this for quite some time. So
Yeah.
I was like, look, I need to get you on the show. Like, it just makes sense. And so thank you again for joining me. I really, really appreciate your time. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will see you next time. Bye. You gotta say peace. You gotta say peace. There you go.